Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the comment session with yours truly, Zack Psioda from HVAC Shop Talk. I'm glad I finally got to do one of these things in the actual evening because we've done a lot of them so far, and unfortunately, most of those have been during the day. So I'm glad maybe a few extra of you are able to see it live if you wanted to see it. Say hello to their chat members down there. We got Doug. I'm sorry, did I pronounce that right? I mean Doug. HVAC Power Factor 1.0. Jessica Egan, what's happening? Ted E. Bear says, Zach, you're the man. But Ted, you tell everybody they're the man, so it waters it down, unfortunately. Adam Haichi, Cam Bo, Clint Glasgow, and T. Leck. T. Leck says he's ordered his new Testo 55 series yesterday. Let's see how the new generation runs. For those of you who don't know, Testo came out with a new series of manifolds. I'm trying to remember the lettering or numbering. 550X, maybe 550I. One of them doesn't have a screen on it, and another one has a more intricate screen than the old Testos. It actually looks pretty cool. So those are out now. I'm sure they're available at TrueTech Tools. Wait, use our Shop Talk discount code. All right, fantastic. Adam Haichi says 550I. Jessica's at school, and Steve is here. All right, so new Testos are out. Of course, we have some comments that have accrued. I just took the ones between about a week and a half ago up to last Wednesday because I was trying to do it on Wednesday, but just got so busy. And here we are, what is it? Almost a week later, February the 2nd. So we'll be doing some catch up. This is a 30-minute show. So, of course, here we go. Alexa, set us a timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
There we go. Mark Morales, what's up, man? So let's go ahead and get down to it. We're going to talk about, let's see what we have here. We have questions that follow up from last week, one on low ambient cooling. We have kind of a back and forth. We'll get into that one. That's from last week as well. And we have some responses from one of my buddies in the Los Angeles area to that same discussion we had last week about mismatching things and stuff like that. We were talking about various subjects. And there's some more reactions to that, some questions about the EPA, something about an evaporator leak test, and pretty much whatever you guys want to put here in the chat, we'll get into in the next 30 minutes as much as we can. When the time runs out, we are all done. So what I'm going to do here is what I usually do is take a little break for like 30 seconds. Then we'll come back and we'll get started with these questions one by one. This video is brought to you by Yellow Jacket. The new Y-Jack wireless probes hook up to your P51-870 manifold to make the perfect all-encompassing HVAC analyzer. Find out more in coming weeks on Shop Talk. Well, that was pretty easy, wasn't it, right there? Bam. There's a long dead area at the end of that one. A long dead area. Typically, I fade out, but we're using something different, so I couldn't fade out. All right, I'm going to go back to the top of my list here. We'll go ahead and see if I can't share a screen. Let's see how this works. That's too little. Let's make it bigger. All right, there's a little bit better. Okay. Comment session number 4. That means we talked about it on the last comment session. Question related to HVACR. What is your normal saturated condensing temperature? Should it be during low ambient? What temperature it should not fall below? I heard 85 to 105. I want to understand low ambient head pressure control properly. What is the magic number it should not fall below? Also, one refrigeration tech was telling me you want a 70-degree liquid temp going to your TXV for better operation. Can you explain this a little in detailed way so I don't have to ask others? Thank you. Well, I don't know if you might have to ask others. That's always a possibility when you are watching this show. You may have to ask others. So when I look at this question, at first I was like, I don't know exactly what to say because I'm coming from a residential HVAC background. I've never took the time and thought of like one particular number that it had to be. So I started to think about it. I said, well, what numbers do I typically get? And we're thinking about condensing over ambient. That's what I always think about. You have your old like 10 SEER and 12 SEER, you're going to be 30 degrees over ambient. And then you have, let's say you go all the way up to like a 14 or 15 SEER, you might be 20 degrees over ambient, 15 degrees over ambient. So if you have 20 degrees over ambient for a nice 14 or 15 SEER unit, then what are you looking at? So if it is, let's say 95 degrees out, you have 115 then. So that's a 115 saturation. So obviously that's really high. 95 degrees is really elevated. So you shouldn't have any problem with low ambient cooling. So let's go where we cut off for TXV charging. TXV charging is usually cut off in the 70 degrees area. So if it's cut off in the 70 degrees area for TXV charging, then that would give you a 90 degree, 20 degree over ambient. So 70 degree ambient, you're looking at 90 degrees right there. So that's probably pretty close to being the number right there. That might be on the high end of the cutoff because it says you can charge piston systems, which may or may not be talking about, at 55 degrees outside. That would put it at 75 degrees saturation, which is really low to me. So I don't know about that. I'll go ahead and put some comments up on the screen here. We have my buddy Adam Heisch making a cool face. Look at that, man. He's making a cool face in his picture. I would say it depends on your application. For low ambient conditions and air conditioning, I would say 90 degrees to 110 saturation is a good range. So that would put you right in that area we were talking about. So 7 degrees with 20 degree over ambient will put you at 90 degrees. So maybe that's a good place to start. Like I said, I come from air conditioning, so I'm going to give you air conditioning answers. Okay. So that's where we're at on that one. That's probably the best I can do on that. Hopefully that helps a little bit. You probably should ask people from other applications. There's a lot of refrigeration techs out there that might give you more information from a refrigeration standpoint. So that would be my best advice because I'm just going to go by where you can charge it or what they advise as far as charging. Because even at 70 degrees charging a TXV, 70 degrees is kind of low outside. I almost would want to come back and charge it again when it was 85, 90, 95 degrees. So I hope that helps a little bit. We're going to move on to the next one here. Let's see, comment session number 4. Now this was a long one because this was in response to the previous video. It says, if you focus on minutes 20 to 23 of the video, it proves my point exactly. If you're going to replace a system, use new, complete, proper, match equipment. Who the hell installs equipment that, and I'm just going to read these things verbatim. They may not be words that I use in my everyday life. Who the heck installs equipment that an apartment complex provides? So let's just go bit by bit here. I am not a huge fan of installing any equipment that an apartment complex provides, but I have done that in the past. Whenever I took over a job, which is the one I was referring to that this gentleman is commenting on, I actually had inherited a situation where someone I knew had gotten into some trouble doing things below board. Now, I'm not saying that I've never done anything below board before, but this particular person got nailed for not permitting a whole bunch of different changeouts, condenser changeouts. I think it was just condenser changeouts. And the apartment building had been buying these things. So I came in and helped them because I was licensed and they were not. So I had to come in and fix all these units, get them properly inspected. And I did set a few more after that for this particular apartment complex, but they did buy them. I don't know if I've done it before. Besides that point, I've done one mini split that someone bought, and it's probably happened a time or two else, but I don't get in the habit of doing that. And because you don't make very much money as a business owner, chiefly the reason why I did it, one, the mini split, because I just started my business and I didn't know any better. And the apartment complex is to bail out somebody that I know very well and unfortunately had gotten into some trouble. And it's no one that you guys know on here, so you don't have to speculate. Let's continue reading. If they want to cut a corner, let them install it themselves. If they do not want it done right, they can just call Craigslist for an HVAC hack. Now, while I understand where this guy is coming from, and I do believe that you'll probably get lower quality from people that will accept that sort of job, it's not necessarily true, and there are circumstances which I've described where you might fall into that. So speaking in absolutes is only for Sith Lords. So, and this guy, I'm just kidding. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. So just keep that in mind. Don't take too hard line of a stance because there are going to be certain instances where somebody who is of quality might do something that you disapprove of. Will not compromise my reputation and work because they want to save $1. And I kind of already addressed that. And you know what? It's not that he doesn't have a point. It's that there's always situations that might be extraneous or beyond what you might be assuming is going on. If you're installing a new condenser in 2021 on a 1989 Goodman air handler, you are a hack. All the issues that you are talking about can easily be avoided by using a complete match equipment. And of course, I would definitely say that complete match equipment is better than installing mismatch. I think I should put that out there. If they are too cheap to pay to do the job, that's kind of redundant. He's kind of mentioning the same point again. Yes, a TXV is designed to maintain superheat, but a design subcooling cannot be achieved. Then you are putting a band-aid on a shark bite, and you will always be going back to stop the bleeding. Do it right the first time, or do not do it at all. Not that that's not bad. That's good advice. Do it right the first time. But I'm talking about making the best of a bad situation, and not only hypothetical. I've had to do this a few times, and it's what people would call real world situations, where you go in there and you have to make the best of a bad situation. And it is probably for the best to walk away from things like that. But there have been times when I didn't. There's certain situations where I accepted that job, whether because I was ignorant to what I thought or what was going to happen, because I needed the money because my business was new, or because I knew the person, or maybe was related to them. I'll just put that out there. Okay. Adam made another comment down here. Let's go ahead and bring that up. So I would also advise checking, and we're going back to the previous comment. I would also advise checking in what kind of bearings your outdoor motor has as well when choosing your ambient control, which is a great point, because motors with ball bearings will go to a lower RPM and correctly circulate sufficiently the oil compared to one with sleeve bearings. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Some of these comments, I like taking the comments that are a little bit like a minefield. That's fine with me. I'm glad this guy keeps commenting. I really appreciate it. I think his name is Roger. I suggest that he continues to comment, and he can definitely make points just like that, which spur on discussion and conversation. I think that's great, and I welcome the addition. And if I didn't get your name right, I'm sorry, but I do believe it's Roger. All right. Okay, this is kind of a response from Juan Valdovinos. A lot of the guys know him as the air conditioning guy. What's up, Justin P? Thanks for joining us. You could mismatch equipment here in LA. Heck, you should see the installations that get passed around here. You're 100% correct, Zach. I had mentioned that you could mismatch equipment and get it inspected, and the gentleman did not agree with that. But definitely here, I don't know if that's universal throughout the country, but definitely here, you could mismatch equipment, get it inspected, and it passed, and it's fine. And when I say it's fine, I meant to the government. It's fine. That's what I mean. Okay. I'm not advocating for doing things the wrong way. We're just having some real world discussion. That's all this is. I'm not telling you to go outside and mismatch equipment. When at all possible, do just what that guy said. Put in matched equipment. That's the best thing you can do. But there's plenty of variations to this that are not quite as severe. We talked about, or he mentioned, like a 1989 air handler with a 2021 condenser. That is a big difference, and that would be like an exaggerated or hyperbolic look at the situation we're talking about. But there's also ones like you have a furnace, but you have a coil and condenser. That's mismatched as well. But as long as you're getting the proper airflow out of an older furnace against your coil and condenser, then what is the difference? Because it doesn't know how that air is being delivered. It doesn't know what device is delivering air. As long as it delivers a proper amount of air, who cares? We're not talking about coils that are too small anymore. We're just talking about matched coil condenser and non-matched furnace. They're not all rated together, but it's done all the time. And I think that is probably just fine, because, like I said, if the airflow is good, what's the problem? Okay. Let's bring in some more comments here to see if we have any good stuff. You have to forgive me. I might bring in some comments that we don't respond to, but they're very small, and I wear glasses. So, Adam, again, sometimes you have to keep the business doors open and need to take jobs from time to time. Yeah, that's true. And that's a compromised, like that statement there may get you into a certain amount of hot water, because that means you're accepting jobs that other people would say, I would never accept. But in my opinion, and I'm not talking Roger in particular, there will be people out there preaching against taking jobs. But then in the darkness, beyond when they're preaching, they'll take those jobs. I've seen that a million times before, where people say, I would never do this. And gosh, if you don't see them doing it or a variant of that. Adam commented again, mismatched equipment takes place all the time. My advice would be to have proper disclaiming on your invoice that the customer is aware of. Yeah, that's always a good idea to cover your rear end. The next comment is, you charge a TXV by subcool, not superheat, which is true. You do charge it with subcool to get the proper liquid to the expansion device, but you also monitor superheat to make sure it's in a general range or specified range, depending on what you're putting in. Typically, I think normal is going to be anywhere from 7 degrees or so on the low end. I know Goodman states 7 to 9 degrees on some of their TXVs, all the way up to around 20 degrees of superheat. When you start getting up into the mid 20s and upper 20s in superheat, there might be a problem or there might be a condition present where you shouldn't be testing, like out of specs for running air conditioning, like you're doing low ambient cooling with a device that's not set up for low ambient cooling, that sort of thing. But I think if you're going from about 7 to 20, you're in the neighborhood. So if you go beyond there, too low and you're flooding back just like you would with a piston, TXV should be giving you a certain amount of superheat. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to hold that superheat. Then the pressures will go up and down a little bit. What happens is, and we kind of talked about this before, and we'll mention it now. We as in me and the mouse in my pocket, as Ralph would say. We'll mention the fact that if you have a TXV compared to a piston and then you have a low indoor temperature, now on a piston, that pressure is going to go down and the superheat's going to go down as well. The suction pressure will go down. Superheat's going to go down until it gets to 0, and then you're flooding back. For a TXV, it's going to want to keep a certain superheat within parameters. So if it's colder inside, it's going to back that pressure off enough that you still have superheat. So the pressure might be lower than a piston on the suction side because it's trying to keep that superheat up. Now, I'm sort of explaining this here, and hopefully it makes sense. So to get superheat out of refrigerant flow, a TXV is going to have to back off that flow until you have that refrigerant evaporating in the evaporator like it's supposed to do. Because if it's flooding back, it's not evaporating in the evaporator any longer, it's staying in liquid form predominantly. But the TXV is going to back that pressure off until you get a certain amount of superheat coming out. So your pressure may be lower than a piston because a piston's a dumb device. It doesn't adjust. It just sits there and it throttles down the flow to a certain degree. You might have just a certain size piston. But a TXV has a little bit of intelligence to it in that area. It will adjust to try to retain that superheat. Let's see. Here is I like this name, Country Fried HVAC. Let's bring it up here. Country Fried HVAC says, how much has an ARUF air handler changed in 10 or 15 years? Is the blower is fine, then you're okay with changing the evaporator only for limited customers. Now, the ARUF air handler in the last 10 or 15 years is still generally the same. I think they switched to the smart frame air handler about, 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. I'm not quite sure. But the size may be different. So you may get into like an older one, like an ARUF 3030 or 3036 or 3642 because they shared sizes. But it may not be the proper match with a new system. Like the old one, the 3030 might have been for a 13 SEER, but if you're trying to put a 15 SEER with it, the evaporator may be slightly undersized. So you have more of a predominant flood back in certain cases and elevated head temperature and pressure from a heat pump. Now, it might be close enough where it doesn't make a difference if it's really close as far as efficiency. But if you start straying too far away from it, it's going to get worse and worse. All right, I'm going to bring this back up. All right, Adam says subcool and superheat will give a picture of both sides of the system for proper charging. Normal subcooling can take place on a slightly poor indoor airflow scenario without checking superheat. Yeah, you can have some variables. If you don't check both of them, you're not getting the whole story, basically. You can charge something up, and when you're charging up something new and you charge it up to like a 10-degree subcooling, more than likely it's fine on the other side. It really is. And if you have a non-adjusted TXV, some machines come with adjustable. You're supposed to set it when you start things up. But more than likely, it'll be fine. But to really know the whole picture, you're going to have to check both sides. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And my buddy Justin Beaver, who will be joining me this week on the HVAC Training Videos channel, as we're going to interview. Actually, I guess I'm interviewing him and David Richardson. So it's going to be a trifecta of a lot of fun. All right, let's get back to the questions. Do you have any thoughts on how the EPA will potentially create new and more restrictive rules that will adversely affect the HVACR industry now that the new Green Deal is high on the president's agenda? One thing I fear is the cost of conformance. This makes for higher prices that I will have to charge in order to recover my expenditures. I'm already feeling guilty about what I have to charge. Now, this is sort of has a political tinge to it. I don't know that the president's going to affect it too much. I mean, they're reinstating these rules where they're going to try to phase out HFCs. They have a bunch of HFO combinations coming to the market. I know Honeywell has their, I can't remember what they're called. Chemours has the Opteon line, I guess. And I hate to slaughter this, but they each have their refrigerants that they're already planning to go to. I don't know how much President Biden's going to affect what happens with that, because it's already coming to fruition right now. You have Carrier coming in with 454B. You have Daikin using R32. R32 is an HFC. R454B is an HFO. Maybe it's a combo. I got to look at that one again, but I know it has components of an HFO in it. I'm not quite sure. And usually I remember that stuff pretty good. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference because we're already on that track. We're already moving that way. My general feeling is they will continue to update these things, and the health and safety of the technician will be last on the list. I think it always has been. They let's improve stuff for the environment, but they do not think about the technician. So all I will say is whatever they do, try to be as safe as you can, because it's just one of those things where government doesn't look out for the little person. I don't care what they say. They talk about it all day. They never look out for the little person. They will stomp on you all the live long day and put you in a dangerous situation. So I guess be careful, stay trained, and try to stay up to date with this stuff so you don't become one of the people that gets trampled on. Okay. Yep. And there it is right there. The AIM Act has already phases down HFCs. We talked about that with Jason O. That is, I'm glad you said that, Eric, because I couldn't remember the name of the act. The AIM Act, they're already in the process of this. It's already moving. And Cambo says President Biden doesn't remember what the EPA is. I think that's playing off of maybe some of his old age right there, which seems like they, it might be apparent. I don't know. We won't get into politics, but I feel like he's getting old. All right, we have Steve here. Never feel guilty about what you charge as long as it's a good price for your profitability and you're not scamming the customer. I think he's going back to some of our matchups from earlier. And then Kaiser says, tell us how you really feel. That, I felt like that for a long time. I used to have a website and I called it Working Joe's Roundtable. And I wrote an article on there about the dangerous future of refrigerants or something. I forget what the name of it was. It's like 4 or 5 years ago. But that was the most success one of my articles ever have. I'm not really an article writer because, are you kidding me? You've seen my intelligence. You've heard my intelligence. I'm not an article writer, but that one did very well. So I don't know why that is, but it's something I feel very strongly about. Eric Kaiser says, R454B is an HFC blend. There it is. It's a blend. All right. Okay. So let's try to get some more of these comments up here. I had one more. Actually, let's get to the one more, and then we'll go to any comments you guys have to round out our time for this week. It says leaking evaporator nitro and vac test. A leak is a leak is a leak. I had to read it like that. Coils come straight from the factory with leaks. The tools we use can only assist us, but there's no guarantee the system won't leak. And just remember, without the leaks, we would be out of business. So thank God for leaks. Now, this one was all about, and I guess we're done with that. This one was all about, I was able to trick the BlueVac app into saying a vacuum was good when it was a leaking coil. I just found a coil that leaked very slightly. We tested it. I put it into a bath of water. It showed bubbles coming out of it. It was tested thoroughly, but it passed the app with flying colors. That was a video I did. Oh, I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But that was a comment on that. I still get a lot of comments on that from there's not really a leak in that coil, even though I showed it. It's kind of bad. So that one's always fun. Let's see here. We have Justin P. Just rolled in a new cooler that's custom ordered, uses R513A or Opteon XP10. Gonna have tons of different refrigerants to carry soon. I have never heard of R513A at all. So I had to look up that one. 513A. That's a new one. Toolman for HVAC, telling it like it is. Yeah, bro, telling it like it is. Always getting into trouble. Countryfied HVAC, it's R54. It's mostly R32 with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. There we go. Thomas Bird says, bring on the R32. And R32, it's been all over the world already. It's nothing new. It was part of R410A. As many of you know, R410A is half R32 and half 125. And R125 is a flammability inhibitor. So it makes it so it's not a flammable refrigerant. But when you have R32 by itself, then it's mildly flammable. And the interesting thing is, since we're just talking here, guys, and I interviewed Paul from RLS a couple of weeks ago on the HVAC Training Videos channel, which if you want to find some of these things, they're in the description of the video. Just check those out. I interviewed Paul, and he said you could use their press tool. And I asked him, I said, are you going to be able to use this press tool with carrier units in 2023, which is when R454B is coming out? He said, yes. So, and I wanted to ask the question in a way that meant, is it legal to use? And he said, yes. So you can use press tools on this stuff, which kind of surprised me. And evidently PepsiCo is using the little press fittings on their hydrocarbon units, which I didn't think you could do until that show. So I'm glad he came on there and told us, because they have a contract with Pepsi and they supply him with all that stuff. Fantastic. And it says, Facebook user says, "Sup, Zach, I hope you're doing fine, man. I'm doing great. I'm upset that whenever I do these things, it has a Facebook comment. I can't actually, see who it is. It just says Facebook user. So that's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer. So I'm really glad that I was able to sit down this evening. For those of you who listen to this as a podcast, I record these on the Shop Talk channel, and I usually do them in like the afternoon, because I do them when I'm in here at my desk and working, so it's easiest. But today I was pushed back a little bit just from doing life stuff. Family's real busy. We have 4 kids. We have a mother-in-law, and there's about 1 million doctor's appointments a month. There's 400 sporting events a month, and it just happened that I'm waiting to go leave and pick up my son from coming back from an away soccer game. He went out to dinner because my brother went to the game because his son plays on the team. And I have a little bit of free time here to do this. Fantastic. Oh, the Facebook user is Yamo. Yamo. Welcome to the show, Yamo. Let's see what else we have here. We have Eric Kaiser. Currently, I would wait for all the standards to hit. Who knows what's going to happen? I told Jason Objute last time I talked to him, which was a few weeks ago. He was like our first interview of this year. I told him that next time he came to us, there'd be 5 new regulations. Adam High says, I'm currently looking into making our company braze free, but it's not looking too friendly on the budget. Yeah, the tool is pretty expensive, and the fittings are expensive, but you really have to compare, I guess, the cost of the gas and everything like that, and these time savings. So you have to do that calculation. I asked Paul about that too from RLS. I said, what's the cutoff for this tool making sense for a company? And he was saying, like, down to a relatively small company, if you're doing several change outs, it can be, we're talking residential here, it could be a useful tool. But if you were somebody like me who did a change out every now and then, maybe it doesn't make sense anymore. Okay. Country Fried HVAC says brazing is like half the fun. Brazing is fun. Brazing is just one of them things that men are proud to do. You ever, repair your own car or build something, like you need a shed built. I'm a country person. You need a shed built. You go out there and build it. It's a source of pride. Brazing is one of those things. It's just cool. And you lie to people and say, yeah, I do welding, but you're really just brazing or soldering. So that's the difference. Don't lie to people, man. Don't lie to people. You got to tell the truth. Okay, let's get into a few upcoming events. Hopefully by the time you guys hear this, if you're listening as podcasters, you may not, it may be the past, which I'm talking about, which I'm sorry about that. So on the 5th of February, I'll say the date so you know, I'm going to have David Richardson and Justin Beaver. We're going to have a little round table on residential system performance. We're going to be talking about that on the HVAC training videos channel. If you missed that, that's okay. You can watch the video or you can wait for the podcast. It'll be on the HVAC Shop Talk podcast. Later on this month, we're going to bring back all of our champions from the skilled trade up, and we're going to play for a tool to be named later. I'm not sure. I actually just got a box from Yellow Jacket today. This is, what day is today? Today is February the 2nd. I just got a box from Yellow Jacket, which should be their new bender. I'm going to do some stuff like promotional stuff with the bender, and then eventually we'll give it away too. So that'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot of tools, man. We have a lot of tools to give away. And let's see. We have another comment here. How about the learning curve for new technicians making mistakes, causing comeback like a year later from improper crimp? Now, I don't know that it would be a year later. I would like to think that if you made a wrong crimp, and I'll leave the comment up there, with a press tool, it'd be pretty evident pretty quickly. That's what I would hope. Now, I don't know if you're going to get these micro leaks with those. I haven't heard anything about that. Most of the issues that I've heard them having as far as leaks were right there in the moment, right at the beginning. So that would be an interesting thing. If someone hears about that, we can give you some feedback on that one. And let me see if I can. Beaver says, all these tools nowadays that tell you how to do your job don't have to be a technical. That's right. We have artificial intelligence. It's R2D2 is doing our units. There is a lot of stuff that does thinking for you. I do believe you should understand how to do the calculations. Absolutely. And Cambo says the industry is changing. Tesla stepped into HVAC. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it will be interesting. But I do agree, guys. When we talk about saturation temperatures and suction pressures, you should be able to do some of the simple calculations. You should be able to do capacity, both latent and sensible combined. You should be able to do sensible capacity for hot air furnaces, electric furnaces. You should be able to do superheat subcooling, stuff like that. There are basic calculations which you should definitely understand, because understanding those calculations will allow you to understand other things, because the tools more than likely is not going to tell you every single thing you need to know. You're going to have some critical thinking. And then, of course, the second side of that is you have to have experience. So you can't get that right there on the first day. The tool's not going to tell you where this furnace typically has a hole in the heat exchanger. It's not going to tell you where a leak is typically on a TWE air handler. You're going to have to learn that over time. So unfortunately, I know a lot of us, want to buy all these tools and then we're going to be the best tech ever, but it does take time. And that's just, it's kind of sucky, because you have to go through all those learning experiences, but it's part of life. And the best thing is, I guess, just to don't be ashamed of it. I'm trying to think of good advice here to tell you. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't lose heart about it, but you're going to make mistakes that help build you into something better. Combined with some nice tools, I think you'll turn out all right. It's Justin Beaver says the leak is always the evaporator. There was a long time period where that's pretty much what I believed, and it's like everything was the evaporator all the time. That's pretty funny. And we have Tool Pros podcast is here. Guys, check out the Tool Pros, man. Tool Pros, if you like just tools in general, we're talking about, they talk about everything. I won't even encapsulate it, but you got to like Milwaukee. If you don't like Milwaukee, they won't let you on the show. Ever since I admitted I like Ryobi better, they don't even invite me on the show anymore. Ryobi is the best. I just want to let everybody know that. Ryobi is the best tool there is. Right now, I'm just running out the clock. There's got to be almost time. I don't know. Alexa, how much time is left on my timer?
You have 10 seconds left on your 30-minute timer.
Look at that. All right. 10 seconds left on a 30-minute timer. All right, it's time to get out of here, guys. I really appreciate it. Like I said, tune into the HVAC training videos channel. Tune in to Skilled Trade Up. Just make sure you're subscribed on those channels. Alexa, stop. And she stopped. Make sure you're subscribed to those channels. There's a whole bunch of links in the description of this video. Go ahead and check them out. If you're listening as a podcast, we still have all the links down there. So, Eric, Ryobi's the best, okay? Just get over it. Ryobi's the best. It's awesome. I really appreciate it, guys. If you have any questions, just type them in after the video is over, and I can answer them on the next show or discuss them, because I'm sure you guys have come to realize I don't have a whole lot of answers, but I am good at discussing. And I'm good at bringing things to light. At least I can do that. So I stick with that. And maybe we can solve some problems every now and then as well. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you're working safe. Working safe. What was that verse? There's a verse from Colossians that John HVAC does. I wish I had it on my screen too, because it's really good. It says, work safe, work heartily for God and not for men. That's the best thing to do. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I'll see you on the next one.